Okay guys, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the size of the brush. Now, one thing I didn't talk about in the last video is repetition. It's kind of hard to see in this one, but what a lot of people will do with cloning is they'll make mistakes and they will clone the same area. So for instance, if I were to, first of all, let me make my duplicate layer. Let me call it base. And make my clone layer. Let me come in here and show you repetition. So what'll typically happen, and there we go. People will come in and very quickly try to, oh, fix this area up like this. Maybe I'll fix this area up like that. And what they don't realize is that they're creating duplicate pixels and duplications. And that's a huge telltale sign. So for instance, if I zoom in, I'm just going to move around with my space. These are identical pixels. So are these up here. These look the same, and so do these. And so duplication is very, very easy. So it's one thing you want to really realize, and we'll talk about hardness in a little bit, but what I want to do is talk about the size of your clone. So for instance, right now I'm sampling an area. Let's say I want to get rid of this. I'm going to sample up here. But I realize I'm starting to take a chunk out of that particular S in the logo, which we really wouldn't want to do. I'm also creating repetition. So it's really important to control the size of the actual brush, and that is what the circle is on the screen. So to do that, I can right click, and I can change the size to make it smaller. But I find it's a lot easier if you just use your shortcut keys, which are the open and closed square brackets, which are below your plus and minus on your keyboard. The right bracket will increase the size. You see the circle's getting bigger. Left bracket will decrease the size. You really want to try and match the size of your object. So for instance, if I am fixing this guy, I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to come in, and I'm going to get rid of this. You can see I have created duplicate tones, or maybe you don't. But I've got this guy and this guy, so I'm going to try and sample here and sample here to get rid of that. Now the reason why I'm getting duplicate tones, duplicate tonality, is mostly because of the size of brush and the hardness I'm using, but we'll talk about hardness in the next video. But ultimately, it's important to match the size of what you're trying to get rid of. So if I'm trying to get rid of this, there we go. And if I want to try and eliminate some of that repetition, I'm going to try and get rid of this in chunks, and I'm going to sample multiple times. And I just realized, oh my goodness, doing everything on the base layer, that's terrible. But you see I've got a backup, so I ultimately didn't touch this, which is good. Very good. There we go. And of course I'm just doing this to show you guys how awesome it is to have a backup. Base, clone, that's because I backed up too far. And let's just do this. Ah, now you can see what just happened. I moved that line over. Why is that? Because I didn't quite have the proper brush size. And there we go. And let me just back up a little bit. Too far. I'm also sampling in the wrong area, which isn't helping. So let's sample up here. So because I'm sampling too close, there you go. It's actually copying part of the a line as well. And let's come back down here, fix this one. Alright, as I was saying, if I want to try and, again, I'm going to increase the size, take this without creating too much repetition, I'm going to try and sample in different areas. And that sort of randomizes that particular spot and helps prevent the repetition in tonality and spot. So what I want you guys to do in this one, or what you would have done in class, is to try and get rid of these large clusters of things. Make sure you sample multiple areas, make sure you're using the appropriate brush size. There we go. And you're going to probably start to see a lot of distortion, a lot of repetition in tones. And if you don't see it, that's fine. It does take some time. There we go. I'm not going to record myself doing this, but you guys get the idea. I'm just getting rid of some of the larger bits of spots and distraction. There you go, guys. That's how we use the size of the clone to help us along.